Hey book friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to my Romantasyathon TBR for the Star Fall Ball. This is all hosted by Tori from Tori Between Pages. She developed this readathon. It is a week-long readathon dedicated to reading fantasy romance. And you guys, I have been really enjoying fantasy romance lately, especially in January. I've kind of fallen into different series, but I feel like Tori has been instrumental in me finding some good options for Romantasy, and so much so that I even joined her Patreon, which I love, and I will link that down below. But you are here for details about the readathon. So let's hop in and I will give you all the details, including what I am planning on reading. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome back to the channel, all the things. So like I said, we are talking about the Romantasyathon readathon going on here in February. From the 15th of February to the 22nd of February, there's going to be lots of prompts and lots of reading sprints. And so I will link down below Tori's channel, Tori's Patreon, as well as her announcement video for this whole readathon so that you can participate if you want. Because I feel like, for me especially, Romantasy has been this genre that I've kind of gone back and forth on, and I just wasn't sure. I also just don't love hopping in on hyped kinds of things, and Romantasy has been so hyped. But the reality is I love a romance plot in my fantasy books. And I have recently made a fantasy romance with mild spice video. I will link it above. It is my mental list of books that I want to read because I do tend to like more fantasy heavy, romance lighter books with mild spice, but I have also realized in January that I'm okay with spice as long as I am swept away by this story, which I have been. All right, let's just hop in. Let's hop into the prompts. So this is a really fun readathon because it's kind of like make your own story readathon is what I surmised from her announcement video. It kind of reminded me of the MASH game. I don't know if any of you are like children of the 80s, but that like mansion, apartment, shack, house game that you played to predict your future and all these things, right? If you don't know, sorry, it was really fun. But this kind of gives me that feeling because you're building a character almost to go to this ball, virtual ball, at the end of the readathon. And so there are prompts for 5 different categories plus a bonus prompt where you can pick books. So can I read 6 books in a week? No. But I love the idea of this, and I also want to see how the character turns out at the end. So what I'm doing is I'm picking 6 books. I will probably read like 1 or 2 books. Now, I think it's way more fun to pick 6 individual books instead of try to fit 2 books into 6 prompts. So that's what I did. So let's just go through some of these prompts, shall we? So here is the board. We'll pop it up here. And the first section is deciding what I'm going to wear to said ball. And this one's really straightforward. So this has to do with the cover of book. And so I picked black cover because I want to read Lady of Darkness. And so Lady of Darkness is on Kindle Unlimited, which is probably another reason I'm reading a lot of fantasy romance right now because so many good ones are on Kindle Unlimited. And I just got a Kindle. So enough said. But Lady of Darkness. Okay. So what I understand this book to be about is a set of sisters. Our main character, I think, is Scarlet, and she has 2 sisters, and they have been trained since childhood to be assassins. And so that gives me a bit of the Throne of Glass-esque feeling. So she's raised to be this amazing assassin, but she's owned by this assassin lord guy. And I think her ultimate plan is to get back at like a fae king or prince who was involved in the murder of her mother. But then something happens in the city and like innocent kids are getting kidnapped or killed or something, and she gets swept into this plot to try to save them. And I think this book is like a 4 or 5 book series. I've heard it's a slow burn romance. I've heard there's like little if no spice in this first book, but then it probably progresses, which is fine because I really do like a slow burn romance as long as our main character isn't so arrogant. I feel like that's one thing that might get me with this book. But otherwise, I think it's a really good choice, and I'm really excited to hopefully pick it up. The next section is who to bring. So this is kind of like your date to the ball, right? And so you can see that there are 4 prompts here that you can pick from. And if I understand this right, this is part of the fun. You don't know what the prompts represent, and I think she reveals that, like who the dates are based on the prompt you pick. And what I am picking is first in a series. And I want to read this book. I have put this on so many TBRs lately. I feel like it is just calling to me. I feel like this is another type of book that I think I would really like. As where Lady of Darkness is adult fantasy, this is YA, and this is called Defy the Night by Bridget Kimmerer. So now, what I think this is about is it's about the society where there's kind of maybe a rich city and on the outskirts are the poor people, and the poor people can't get what they want. And we have our main character of Tessa, who's an apothecary apprentice, and she's able to kind of sneak out into the woods to find something. It's like a flower, yeah, moonflower petals that can help people. There's a sickness. That's right. There's a sickness going around, and she can help people. But then she is captured by, I think, like the prince, the Fey Prince. Is this a fairy prince? It doesn't say fairy. Just the prince, Prince Korik, who serves as the king's justice. So I'm guessing that is the love interest. And then this is also, I think, a 3-book series. So I'm excited. I'm excited to start this. I think it would be right up my alley. I also think it would be a really fast read. All right, pop back up the prompts. Next is your background. And so this says something about you. I think this seems a little bit more self-explanatory as it's like witches and vampires. I picked a book with Fae because if you saw my series to prioritize, I really want to read this. I want to finish this whole series. And so I am on Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is a Throne of Glass book. It's number 4, as long as I don't count Assassin's Blade, although I have read that. So this will be the 5th book I'm reading. Now, I have really enjoyed this series for the most part. The first couple books were a little bit more YA. I believe this whole series is geared YA, although I've heard later books are a little less so. But I really enjoy the character growth of our main character of Selena and where she is in this 4th book. I can't say too much about, but she is like this assassin, but she has been trained again from childhood as an assassin. She's owned by this assassin lord in the kingdom, and then due to some circumstances, she ends up in this like prison mines area where they're just like slave labor. It's terrible until she gets pulled back out by the prince of this region who wants her as his champion in this competition to be the king's assassin or the king's champion. And so in the first book, that is what she is faced with, is this kind of set of trials and things. Okay. It goes a long ways from there to get to here. And I just want to pick it back up because I think once I start going on this again, I can finish it. So I wanted to put this in for book with Fae. So that's on my TBR as well. Okay, so the next set of prompts is trope. So this is kind of the trope with your date. I picked enemies to lovers, and I picked that so I could read Quicksilver. Again, this one is on KU, which is where I'm planning on reading it. There has been nonstop buzz about this book, and from what I understand it to be about, is it's about our main character who has like, I think alchemy magic, joke, another alchemy magic, and she can like unlock doors or something, and she gets in trouble and she's on the run, and she unlocks a door by accident into, I believe, the Fae realm, where she runs like, I think straight into this man named Kingfisher or something like that, who is a Fae warrior. And I think he desires the use of her magic as well. So not quite sure what the overarching plot of that is, but I am curious. I feel like I could really like this. And so Quicksilver is my enemies to lovers selection for the readathon. And then the next set of prompts is for selecting a weapon, because you never know. And so I picked the prompt for a recommendation from a friend. And this has been on my shelves because one of you recommended it to me when I was talking about the fact that I don't love a ton of spice, or I don't like spice heavy romance, heavy fantasy romance. I like more big epic worlds with good romance. So my hopes are to try this out. So this is a self-published book. I think it was part of SPIFFO in like 2020 or 2019. And so it got a little buzz there, but I've been wanting to pick this up. So it's A Tale of Stars and Shadow by Lisa Cassidy. And so I believe this is very much so fantasy world heavy. So it has to do with our main character of Tylin, who is a fighter. Like she's a very gifted fighter, but then I think her partner is killed and she's kind of left to her own devices and she ends up in this other city. But in this city, there's kind of some stuff going on. There's like winged folk, magical winged folk who are doing bad things, I believe. And then we have another character in here called the Shadow Hawk who has been kind of fighting criminals, I believe, constantly hunting. No, he is a criminal. There we go. And for some reason, her arrival into this city, Dock City, kind of unbalances a bunch of stuff and things start happening from there. I believe this is either 3 or 4 books, and I think it sounds really fun. And so I'm going to use this for my rec for a friend. And then the last prompt is like a bonus prompt. I just thought I would do it too because I like to build a big TBR to have lots of choices. And so the bonus prompt I'm going with is 1-word title. And you guys, I'm super psyched about this. And I have a feeling that once I start reading these books, I will just binge the series because that's all I've been doing these days is binging series. And so I'm going to put Caraval. I always want to say Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This has to do with our main character of Scarlet, another Scarlet. I'm reading lots of similar books. Okay, of Scarlet and her sister. And I believe it is about a father who has arranged a marriage for her, but she wants to go see Caraval, which is a once-a-year performance that you need a specific ticket for, and then somebody helps her get invited and they get there, but then her sister gets kidnapped, I believe. Not exactly sure even like who the love interest would be in that, but I think that sounds really fun and like has the potential to really sweep me into a big story. So those are the books I'm picking as potential books for my Romantasyathon TBR that's happening kind of mid-February. Again, check all the details down below. I have no intention of reading all these books, but it gives me a good stack to kind of mood read, to decide what I want to start, because a lot of these are also first books in a series, and so I have a tendency to really get hooked. And I really want to see how my character or my story turns out in the end. And so let me know down below if you are thinking of participating. Even if you don't read a lot of Romantasy, I feel like it's fun to kind of dedicate a week to it. That's not that long. But if you have nothing else you necessarily want to say, but you want to let me know you're here, let's just do a heart emoji for Romantasyathon. I think it'll be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's what I have. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you want to, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next book video. All right, guys, take care.